Right now, a big ridge of high pressure is building in the central U.S., leading to mostly nice and spring-like weather. But a storm system is diving in from the Pacific Northwest that will change everything. This is going to lead to several days of severe weather, temperature swings, and snow across the country. And we are really going to start to feel the impacts from this storm system on Tuesday, as we do have a chance of severe weather in the central U.S. This is associated with a big trough of cooler air aloft that's combining Pacific moisture, Canadian cold, and warm Gulf air all in the same spot. The big storms that we expect to happen are expected to pop up late in the evening, maybe around 8 or 9 p.m., and then they're going to be able to produce hail, damaging winds, and maybe even an isolated tornado or two through the early morning hours. The Storm Prediction Center has highlighted this area under a marginal risk of severe weather on Tuesday for the very reasons we just listed off. So if you live under the dark green here, make sure you're paying attention to the weather on Tuesday. Now, while all this is happening in the central U.S., over here in the west, the same storm system will be bringing snow and rain to parts of the Pacific Northwest and the Rocky Mountains. This unsettled weather will be accompanied by much cooler air as well. As you can see here on the temperature anomaly map, the cool air trough driving our storm system is sending temperatures anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees below average all across the west coast. But look at all that warmth in the central U.S. up into Canada. You see, out ahead of our trough, the warm air is allowed to advect farther northward. This is one of the big reasons we have an elevated risk of thunderstorms. Tuesday evening, it's going to be near 20 degrees warmer than usual in Chicago, which means that the high temperature is going to be in the low 60s. And farther south down here in Oklahoma and Texas, it's going to be well into the upper 70s and lower 80s. This combination of warm air and cool air will continue to fuel our storm system as we go into Wednesday. In fact, on Wednesday, the storm system as a whole is going to be a lot stronger. This is once again evident from our temperature anomaly map. Just look at the huge area of above average temperatures in the east and then that cold pool of air in the west. The increased intensity of these two air masses will lead to much heavier snowfall in the Rockies on Wednesday. Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah will be getting hammered by heavy snow, and this storm system is going to continue to get stronger and stronger as it interacts with that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. And by the time this is all said and done, some parts of Colorado at sea level on the front range, not even in the higher elevations, will probably get over a foot of snow. And all of that juicy Gulf of Mexico moisture that's coming up into the storm isn't just going to be fueling the snowstorm. Of course, more rain and thunderstorms will form along the warm front late in the evening on Wednesday in places like Kansas and Missouri. And some of those storms could be strong, bringing some hail and wind. But the real severe weather risk doesn't come around until Thursday, especially down here in the south central U.S. You see, the big driving factor behind this whole shebang is the 500 millibar trough carrying all that cold air down from Canada. But that thing is going to start collapsing on Thursday, and it's eventually going to completely dissipate. But as it falls apart, it's going to try to go out with a bang, really emphasizing that ridge on the eastern side right at the last minute. As a result of this, on Thursday, a much more intense surge of warm air is going to get chucked up into the country, and this will collide with what's left of the cold air on the backside. And in my opinion, this is going to lead to our most significant threat of severe weather in the near future. And I'm going to go over all the details around that right here in a minute. But first, here's a look at the SPC outlook for Thursday. Even they are highlighting this area for a very real potential for severe weather. One of the first things I notice about the highlighted region here is it lines up almost perfectly with some of the first places in the US that will get to experience our total solar eclipse that's coming up in about a month. And speaking of the total solar eclipse, we have to shout out today's sponsor, which is Visi Solar. And what Visi Solar is it's a company here in the US that makes these safety glasses that allow you to look at the sun specifically during the total solar eclipse. And trust me, if you ever have plans on looking at the sun, you're gonna need some of these. You see, this solar eclipse that's coming up on April 8th, 2024 is a must-see event for every human being that's alive today that has the ability to experience it. The last total solar eclipse we had was 7 years ago, and I went to experience totality, and it was honestly one of the most insane moments of my life. I will never forget it. When we got to our spot though, we realized that we didn't have any eye protection, and we wanted to look at the sun obviously to see what was happening. So we ended up having to buy some of these glasses off of somebody in the parking lot for a whopping $20 per pair because there was a shortage. And listen, this upcoming solar eclipse is a way bigger deal than the last one. This one's going to last longer, and it's going to be 2044 before there's another one here in the US. So I imagine even more than last time, if you wait till the last minute, these are going to be very hard to come by. So go ahead and click the link in the top of the description description to get a pair of these bad boys for just a couple of bucks over on VisiSolar.com. Heck, if I were you, I'd go ahead and get a whole daggone box so you can be the guy selling them for $20 in the parking lot if you really want to. And I know there's a lot of these things available out there, but these are better than your average ones, okay? They're made in the USA, they're NASA approved, and they are CE and ISO compliant. They will protect your eyes. And hey, even if you don't live in the path of totality, the vast majority of the US is going to be able to see at least some of the moon covering the sun at some point during the day on April 8th. But you will have to be wearing these glasses to really see it. And VisiSolar also has these really cool photo filters for your smartphone so you can take pictures and videos of the eclipse while it's happening. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click that link in the top of the description. Click it right now so you can snag your glasses and be prepared for the solar eclipse. And then once again, especially if you're in this red highlighted region of the US on Thursday, go ahead and get prepared for severe weather as well. It looks like the real big storms are going to start firing during the heating of the day over here in Texas, and then they're just going to grow into a huge messy complex as the day goes on and they move farther east. Right at the onset of these storms forming, there will be a pretty elevated tornado risk. If this is actually how the atmosphere looks when we get there, there's going to be some spin. But once again, we're still pretty far out, and it's safer to say that the main threat is going to be hail and damaging winds on this day. We're still monitoring the tornado probabilities. Also, something that we should point out is that some very, very heavy rain is going to be possible. All of that Gulf of Mexico energy is going to get dumped here in Texas and Louisiana, possibly leading to some flash flooding, so keep that in mind. But the farther east these storms move, the more they will weaken and fizzle out, eventually just leading to some general rain and thunder across the vast majority of the East Coast. And as the storm system exits the US, a big push of colder air will funnel in behind it, sending a lot of the areas that were just experiencing above average temperatures back into the chilly zone. That cold air is first going to pour over the Great Lakes region, bringing forth a period of lake effect and lake enhanced snow. This will probably be most intense on Sunday into Monday, as the cold air mass will be so expansive that by this point pretty much everyone will be experiencing below average temperatures, except for the coasts. And yeah, that's right, after several days of being below average, the West Coast is actually going to be well above average by the end of the weekend. And this of course is because of a new ridge that's forming in the west that will eventually propagate to the east, and we will repeat this cycle again next week. But before we start thinking too far into the future, let's focus on the short term. If you live in any of these areas highlighted by the SPC over the next few days, please be weather aware. Of course, if things go nuts, I'll be live on YouTube with storm chasers, relaying warnings and all that good stuff.
A large cold funnel on this, a tornado is imminent.
So make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications on so you never miss a video or a live stream. Once again, I really want to thank VisiSolar for sponsoring this video. I really hope to see a lot of you guys out there in the path of totality on April 8th wearing these glasses. And yeah, I'm going to be there too. I'll be in the moon shadow somewhere in southern Illinois. So until then, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. Ooh.